Everybody, it's Kim. Tonight's dinner, we're on the last day of the first week of the pantry challenge. In this pan, I have layered first a layer of potatoes, a little bit of onion, some ham, another layer of potatoes, onion and ham, and then I've topped it with some potatoes. My brother had a back molar pulled and he needs soft, easy meals to eat. So I am making scalloped potatoes with ham for dinner for him. And what I'm using, I went through I never looked through the door much in my refrigerator, but I have 4 of these little packets of butter, which I'm going to use to make the sauce to put over my potatoes. All right, making a white sauce is super easy. It's basically easy enough that you don't have to use those cans of cream of whatever soups. I don't like to use them. They have too much stuff in them, and you can easily make these by yourself. All you need is butter and flour and a liquid. In this case, it's going to be some milk. And if you wanted cream of chicken, quote, cream of chicken, you add chicken bouillon. You could add mushrooms. You could add celery. You can make all of that stuff completely on your own. So all I'm going to do is melt down that butter I had in my refrigerator door, which honestly, I don't even know where it came from. The boys eat out once in a while, so they must have brought some home. So that's, I think, about 4 tablespoons of butter. To that, I'm going to add 4 tablespoons. You put equal amounts. If you use 2 tablespoons, use 2 tablespoons of flour. If you use 4, you use 4. And you bring that together, stir it around for a minute. It will all clump up, and that's fine. You want to cook out a little bit of that flour taste, although I am going to be baking this for a good hour and a half, and that flour taste will cook out. So, you know, the less time you cook it, the more you need to cook out your flour. So I'm just going to stir this around for a second or two, and then I'm going to start stirring in. I have some chicken stock that I want to use. So I'm going to start with, that's about a little less than half a cup. It's about 3/4 a cup of chicken stock or so. And that's okay. I'm going to stir that until it comes up to temperature, and those clumps are going to start to melt into your stock here. Now I have a lot of ham in there, so I'm not going to add hardly any salt to it. I will add a little bit of salt, but I have some pepper. I like to add it to my sauce. You could add it between your layers if you want. And I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And you can add garlic powder or whatever. Now look at that's already starting to thicken up because that flour and butter is starting to melt into my sauce. I'm going to try to get that smooth, but you're going to have a few lumps until you get all of your liquid in there and it gets heated really well together. You can make gravy just like this, you guys. As a matter of fact, I don't buy those gravy packets. I use chicken stock, bone broth, you know, beef stock, whatever you have on hand. You make a little roux with the flour and the butter, and you add your chicken stock and season it. Right now, this, if I had more chicken stock in here, it would simply be a gravy. You don't have to feed your family those things. You know, I mean, they're not expensive, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of additives to them that you really don't need, and honestly, this is going to save me money. The milk I just use is evaporated milk. Again, it's a pantry item I need to use up. Potatoes are always a pantry item for me. I try to keep some kind of potatoes in there at all times. Yesterday, I had to drive. My brother had to get some major dental work done yesterday, so I drove him into the next town that has a decent store in it. It's called Myers in our area. And they had a 7 for $7 sale, and I got 10 pounds of potatoes for $2. for 5 pounds. And I picked up some frozen vegetables and a couple other things I needed, because if I'm driving that far, I'm not going to waste time not getting something I can stock up on. I spent under $20 and I got vegetables. I was able to pick up some baby carrots for my dogs and me. I eat them too. I picked up a bunch of frozen vegetables. I got some fresh broccoli. I bought some salad. It was on clearance. And a big pack of mushrooms that was on clearance. So I didn't waste my trip going up there, about 60 miles, I think I said, told you guys. Since I was there, I decided to stop in and get a few things. All right, so now that my sauce is done, that's it. I'm going to pour it over my potatoes. I'm going to stir this for just a minute because I want to see if it gets any thicker. I can add a little bit more milk. I just want to make sure I can cover my potatoes, and then they're simply going to go in the oven to bake. All right, I did use the rest of that can of milk. I figured I can always use this later in the week if I want to. And I like to make sure I have enough to cover everything, making sure it gets down to the bottom. You want all those layers soaked here. And I think I'm just going to go ahead. It'll be extra creamy. And he can see the little clumps, they'll melt out in there. If I had taken a couple more minutes and used a whisk, they would have been gone. But do yourselves a favor, if you ever cook these, put it on a pan, because if they spill over in your oven, it's going to make one horrendous mess and you're not going to be happy. I'm going to bake this at 350. It's going to take an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how thick I sliced my potatoes, and then we'll have this for dinner tonight. Right, I looked through my cabinets and I found a half a container of these crispy fried onions that a lot of people use at Thanksgiving time for the green bean casserole. And I decided to put some of those, my dog's being weird, on top of the scalloped potatoes with ham. So I think that about the last 15 minutes I uncover it and I added some of these onions on top. All right, here's our dinner for tonight. Scalloped potatoes with ham and French fried onions. I think that looks really, really good. So let me know what you think of this recipe in the comments below, and have a wonderful night.